DTV Flicks.
Hi, y'all, and welcome to the Coffee Break Podcast. I'm your host, Kenzie, alongside my producer, Lester Platt, and we're thrilled to be in the studio tonight with Scott Rice. Scott is an Emmy Award-winning writer, producer, and director with over 300 film festival selections and 100 awards, and the only filmmaker ever nominated for 2 Student Academy Awards in the same year. His work includes Spies in Disguise, the Emmy-winning PBS series Stories of the Mind, and projects distributed by Fox, Sony, Comedy Central, Hulu, IMAX, and Showtime, with collaborations alongside Glenn Close, Brett Favre, and Matthew McConaughey. He's also the professor of script to screen at UT Austin, where he co-teaches with McConaughey and is widely known as an actor's director.
Still Studios is a full-service production agency that partners with people, brands, and agencies to bring their unique stories to life for TV, socials, or ads. Contact us at hello@stillstudios.com.
How was that for an intro?
I like it.
Thank you. I tried so hard.
I approve.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We're so excited. Thanks for answering my cold email. I was like, I really hope that he responds. He's a busy guy. I hope.
No, I'm totally into it.
Thank you.
I love talking about this stuff.
Good. You were so excited. You were amped. Getting to chat with you on a call when we first met was excited me and inspired me. So I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, ditto. I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, so welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, me and Kenzie and I, we've been planning it for months, actually.
Yeah.
So it's funny because today we went through the questions one more time, and Kenzie I was like, I sent you the questions like a while ago. And Kenzie was like, you sent it in May, back in May.
I screenshotted to find it. I thought, what's going on?
Oh my goodness, that is a long time in development.
Yeah. So let's just jump right in. You have such a background. You have a BA in communications, an MFA in film production from UT Austin. And looking back, I'm sure you have so many lessons that you were taught and you held on to. What has helped you the most as a storyteller, especially through your early work in animation and art direction?
I think just embracing creativity and making stuff and, staying passionate about it and not judging my work. So enjoying the work. I mean, you can get too caught up in what the audience might think or your classmates might think, when you're in film school, for example. And I've spent a lot of time, I think, worrying about, like, is my film good? Are people going to like it? And I found that my best work was when I just threw that away and just followed my own whims and kind of flew my own freak flag and did what I thought was funny and interesting and visual. And maybe it was a little weird or a little off, but that's what made it original. So that was those were some of the early lessons I had in my career, particularly when I was a film student.
Incredible. It's hard not to have self-doubt, especially when you're in classes with other people and you're comparing your work to theirs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, especially in graduate film school, here I am making these comedies and, one film I made had a fart joke in it. And I remember one of my classmates was like, that's really childlike. And I was just like, but that's what I want to make. And then that film went on to be very successful and traveled the world and went to film festivals. And it was the first film I ever got distributed. So if I listened to that criticism and I pulled back a little bit, my work wouldn't be uniquely me. And I think all artists have to embrace what's unique to them and do that.
Yeah. Everyone brings something so unique to the table.
Yeah.
That you have to wait for that opportunity,
well,
to just be like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do it.
You got to just do it. And I think that the hard part of being an artist, but especially in media and motion picture storytelling, is being original. And the fastest way to being original is just doing what you want and not worrying so much about what other people think. So just say, instead of going, well, I'm kind of weird, I don't want to be, maybe I should change no. What do you really want to say as an artist? And write it down. Like, what do you know? What interests you? Not just thematically, but visually. And you write a little thesis statement about the kind of stuff you want to make and just go for it without shame. Yeah.
And it's one of the hardest things to find because you have to try probably 10 different things in order to kind of say, this is what I like, right?
Well, and I like your point that, you don't find it right away. And you got to stumble and you got to fall and you make something and you say, I didn't love that, or that wasn't fun, or that didn't connect, whatever. It is true that it's a bit of a numbers game. You do have to just make stuff. You got to practice. I mean, you don't, come out of the womb playing, the violin like, Itzhak Perlman,
How much stuff you did before you found out that you like comedy? Like, or did you find
I found
it right
it right.
away?
I mean, the movies I made as a kid were all action comedies, and that's pretty much what I do now. So I'm blessed in that. Well, first of all, I knew I wanted to make films early on, but I'm a little bit blessed in that I didn't have to search too much for what I thought my style was as a cinematic storyteller. Yeah. So I got lucky, a little bit lucky.
Yeah. Most people have like years can pass and you still don't kind of like, for example, I studied graphic design and my idea was I like drawings. I like, creating stuff from nothing.
Yeah.
But it was all digital. So as soon as I grabbed the camera to take some pictures and people liked it, I was like, maybe I'm good at this thing. And that changed my whole perspective in how to create things from, that it's not only on the screen, but actually going out there and, shooting something.
Well, and that's kind of a fun, I used to do that too. I was in my room for hours, always drawing, and I always drew portraits. I love faces and I loved expressions. And then there was a difference between drawing alone in my room and getting together with a cast and crew and going out and try to make a film. And that presented a new challenge that I had to get out of my comfort zone a little bit because I was very introverted, and I had to kind of more present a little bit more as an extrovert and get used to, directing a crew and directing actors, which was a little bit of a struggle early on.
I very familiar with that because I'm an introvert too. It's hard for me to just go out there. It's hard for me to be in a networking event and decide to go to it. And just the idea of having to talk with people, it's hard.
It's hard. I will tell the people listening to this who struggle going to a networking event. I do too. But every event I've gone to that I had to really force myself to go to, driving home, I've never once regretted going.
I agree with that.
Never once.
Okay.
So I encourage people to get out of their comfort zone, just force themselves to get in the car, drive to the place, and be other-centered. You don't have to talk about yourself so much. Ask other people questions. That's kind of a nice hack for going to an event where you don't know people. That works out really well.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So with the directing, did you go right into directing your own film and everything after film school, or you worked for Activision, you did screenwriting for games, correct?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. So after I got my undergraduate degree in film, I made a bunch of films, and I went to some festivals and stuff, but I didn't have the money to go to graduate film school. And this is in the mid-'90s, so we didn't really have cameras ready. Like, I had to go to film school to make more films. You don't necessarily have to do that today. So I worked in video games. I mentioned I was an artist. So I was a concept artist, I was a digital artist, and then I was an animator, 3D animator in video games and animating monsters and stuff that you fight. It was really fun.
Yeah.
And then I became an art director. And after 3 years of that and saving money, I quit and moved to Austin and went to film school to get my MFA and make more movies, which was a pretty traumatic thing to go from being an art director in, games that people, millions of people are playing, and then, earning minimum wage sweeping up film studios.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to make that sacrifice
Yeah.
to do what you want to do. And that's what I did, and it was the best decision I ever made because I wanted to be a filmmaker. Working in games was a very fun early job where I learned how to manage a team of artists, and I got to work with programmers and designers and kind of do all the problem solving skills that entails, especially working with so many different types of people. But going to film school, that was kind of my transition from undergrad to graduate film school.
And so postgraduate film school, what was that transition like? How did you make that next step? Was it relationships? Was it just the drive, intuition? How did that come to fruition? Because I think I'm so sorry.
Oh, no.
I think so many people are so curious about that because people go, okay, I'm done with film school. Now what? I see all these successful people, but not realizing, no, it's really freaking hard.
Well, I thought very hard about what was coming next before I graduated. So I was like, okay, here we go. So I did a number of things. Number one, I said, well, straight out of the gate, someone's probably not going to pay me to direct. So I got to make money somehow. Well, maybe they'll pay me to teach. And so I took my TA-ships very seriously, and I was a TA for a kind of an intro to screenwriting class, and I was a screenwriter. And I was pretty much ready to teach that class, did some guest lectures and stuff on writing short films and things, and practiced lecturing to 200 students. And sure enough, they asked me to teach that class after I graduated. So I had like a little kind of side hustle ready to go, but that was film related. So I was getting paid to talk about filmmaking and screenwriting and to be immersed in that. So that was very nice. I also knew that I wanted to make movies, so I had to have some feature films written. So because when I got those 2 student Oscar nominations, there were agents who were interested, and I got an agent. But in order to go to studios and pitch, I had to have projects that were kind of ready to go that I could talk about. So I spent some time writing feature scripts, which were not required of being a film student. And then the third thing I did is I said, well, goodness, maybe I can get paid to direct commercials. So I directed 5 spec commercials, fake commercials that look like real commercials before I graduated, and I had them all ready to go. So about a year after I graduated, I got signed on roster for a production company to direct commercials, and I pretty quickly out of the gate got a national Shell commercial after that. So I prepared, but it was hard. I'm like writing a thesis report and trying to finish a thesis film and like also trying to prepare for the future career. Yeah. But I wanted to make sure that I had some kind of income, but I wanted to make sure that income was filmmaking related. And so I successfully did that. And because I had written some scripts, I also got screenwriting gigs, adapting stories, rewriting scripts. So I was also getting some work as a screenwriter.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I think that's art by itself too, like writing something that can make that makes sense and everything. So
it's tremendously difficult, and people would think they can just write a great script quickly.
What do you think is like, for example, a creator, like a filmmaker, a director that wants to jump to directing but doesn't know how to write, or doesn't have that ability to write a whole 90-page script?
Well, a director doesn't have to write. They could just become friends with writers and collaborate and try to get someone else's script off the ground. That's fine. The hard part is that very few people are just going to hand you a great script as a director.
100%.
They want to go off and sell that script. The people who are career writers, they want to get that optioned and made, and so it does help you to try to write something yourself. But if you're not a really strong writer, you have to practice writing. And I am not a natural born writer. I'm more like you. I'm a visualist. I'm an artist. I'm a visual artist. And screenwriting was kind of a craft. I had to learn. I had to read a lot of books, practice, write a bunch of feature scripts. It didn't work out. Write another one, break another story, write it again. And so it was many years of practicing at it. Yeah. But it was kind of joyful. It's fun to just make up a story in your head. I mean, I love writing. Yeah. You know, it doesn't cost. It costs time. Yeah. But you don't have to bring a big crew together. You just make up something.
I think I'm on that phase right now where, you know, I'm in the film industry already, so I kind of know what can be done and what, you know, in our means and stuff. But I've been enjoying I never wrote anything before. Yeah. But I've been writing short films, and I just finished my first feature film script.
Wonderful.
So it's been a process, a couple of years, but I've been enjoying it for sure.
Well, congratulations, because it actually is a real achievement to finish a feature, you know. And then obviously the real work begins, the rewriting process, you know, because writing is rewriting. But it's hard. Yeah, so that's awesome. I'm happy for you. That's awesome. And short films, I will say, short films are hard to write because no one really teaches you how to write a great short. Yeah. And to write something that is compelling and says something about the human condition, but is less than 10 minutes long. Yeah, that's really hard. That's as well. Yeah. I will say. So people who are struggling, who are thinking, well, I'm having trouble writing my short film. That's sometimes in some ways harder than writing a feature, because at least there's books on how to write a great feature. Yeah. There's not a lot of instruction on what makes a really great short film story. Yeah. So
that was one of the questions that we had, is how worth it do you think are short films? Like, are they worth the time and the, you know, effort and probably, you know, jump?
Yeah, because I mean, you know,
because literally there's no market for them, there's no platform or whatever, rather than YouTube or Vimeo or just your portfolio kind of thing. There's no one or a business that can kind of, hey, I'm gonna buy your short.
It's hard to get paid for shorts now. That used to be different, and it's a bummer that it's that way now. But short films are still the way you show that you can make films. That's how you show your chops. And the thing I like about shorts, and the mistake I made when I was undergrad, is I made long shorts because I didn't know how to write a compelling short. So I would make a 30-minute film, but I'd bite off more than I can chew. And I'm shooting for all these days, and I have this big cast, and I'm running around struggling to produce it. And meanwhile, I don't really have the time to focus on directing and making it look great and sound great and getting great performances. So when I went to grad school, I decided, I'm going to make really short shorts, like 4 minutes, 9 minutes, 6 minutes. And boy, my films were way better because I could focus on just making them really good. So it was about the quality, not the quantity. And I also decided, I'm not the best at writing dialogue. I'm gonna tell really visual stories. I'm gonna get rid of the dialogue. And then my films got way better because I was focusing on my strength. I was a visual storyteller, and my strength wasn't dialogue. And that was okay to lean into my strengths.
One thing, going from strengths to the topic, I've been so excited to talk to you about this. But the topic of mental health, which is such a stigma, doesn't get talked about enough, is sometimes not accurately portrayed in films.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is hard. But a lot of your documentaries, that is what they focus on. Stories of the Mind, which I got to watch 2 of the episodes, which are fantastic. But I think, all of my friends who are in this industry, everyone struggles with depression or anxiety or this fear or panic and all that. And it is so hidden. It's not talked about. We put on this facade. I direct young actors, and I talk to them about my anxiety and depression. They're like, I would never guess. You're so confident and put together and everything. I go, well, you don't see me in my car beforehand or after. When it's, why is that so important to you? Why do you continuously create these documentaries or just add on to them? Because I think what you were doing is incredible, and I would love for you to share that.
Well, it starts with my own personal experience as a painfully shy kid with social anxiety and, generalized anxiety and dysthymia, which is low-grade depression, basically. And, I thought I was weirdo. I thought I was a weirdo, and I thought I was really messed up. And I spent a lot of time sitting in shame over my mental health situation. And then as I grew up and I became an adult and I started going to therapy and I got on medication and I started to realize, I need to talk about this because other people struggle too. And the antidote to it is the vulnerability, the talking about it, the letting other people know that it's not a big deal to talk about. And we all struggle with something. A student came up to me after class literally yesterday and said, I struggle with anxiety. And I started to share with her my own struggles with anxiety and how I deal with it, and not so much totally overcome it because it doesn't go away. And I got emotional talking about it. And I think that, the more we all just talk about it and make it not a big deal, then people can find healing and people can say, it's really not fun to say, hey, I have a condition that's keeping me from my dreams. That's how I used to feel. How am I ever going to be a filmmaker? I'm so shy. I'm so afraid. I have so much anxiety. When I did my first commercial, I walked up to set and I was terrified, as a director, my first big commercial, and there's all these giant trucks and everything. It didn't look like a student film anymore. And I was just like that pit in the stomach feeling. That was a physiological response that I just couldn't control. But over the years, that goes away because you have more experience and your anxiety starts to settle down and the confidence. So there is a way through it. There's a healthy way through it. And the more we talk about it and the more we help young people who are coming up, I think the better. And they'll hopefully get through it a little quicker than maybe we did because we didn't have some of the same resources they had.
I think so many people think they're alone too, and it doesn't get talked about. And
Yeah.
I find, and we chatted about this too, but social media being like kind of a blessing and a curse and detrimental of people not realizing that's only 1% of someone's life. That's not the 99% reality of what we deal with. So I think being able to have you and other people, and then Glenn Close telling her story, which was so personal and emotional, will hopefully help what we didn't have, seeing all that.
Yeah, on the social media thing, you got to understand that social media is personal brand marketing.
Yeah.
It's not real life. It's just marketing. It's advertising. That's really what it is. And some people treat it in a little bit more raw way, but a lot of people really don't. And that's okay. That's fine, But yeah, I wouldn't base your mental health on, what you're seeing on Instagram. That's not healthy at all.
Exactly.
Yeah, I had that experience when, I started doing commercials here because I didn't know anyone, right? And I started doing like, big commercials in the sense of, 30 people on set, 40 people on set, and kind of managing and directing and producing and, all this stuff. So, but a friend said something like he said to me without even thinking, like, dude, this is wrong with this job it's make believe. You know what I mean? It's like, and he said it to me just without knowing that I was nervous or whatever. So I just kind of took that thought and just applied it in what I was, on my day.
Yeah.
So it just kind of went easier and say, I just gonna have fun and not worried.
Well, that's a beautiful, because there are people who take this way too seriously, making media and telling stories.
Oh yeah.
It's like, this is not brain surgery. We are not saving a life. We are not curing cancer. We are creating entertainment, or we're creating commercials or making a music video, whatever. But it's not worth screaming at somebody over. It's not worth discouraging a young person over. It's not worth getting ugly over or resentful towards someone, or getting angry at yourself, or it's just not. It's like you have to take it less seriously. And I just treat it like I'm a kid playing in a sandbox. And that's actually like a cool mental trick when you're on kind of a big commercial and a lot of money's being spent and the clock is ticking, but you're still treating it like you're just playing in the sandbox. That's kind of where you want to get to not only enjoy it, but also, guess what? Do your best work. Because the more you start feeling that anxiety and thinking that, oh, it has to be this way and it has to be perfect, and you start getting precious about it, that's when things start to fall apart. You know, Matthew McConaughey always says there's more than one right answer. And that's very freeing, especially for young filmmakers who think they have to stick perfectly to their storyboards and stuff. When I started doing documentary, that really opened me up to being a little bit more relaxed about my vision, because you can't control the situation in documentary like you can in narrative. But things go wrong in narrative too. It rains, the actor shows up late, the actor's in a bad mood, the wardrobe is wrong or whatever. Run with what you're given on any given day, and that kind of takes the pressure down a little bit.
I love that.
Yeah. Speaking of Matthew McConaughey, you teach with him, the script to screen class.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Were you still working at UT and he was brought on?
Yeah, I was at UT, and the chair of the film program at the time basically talked to Matthew and said, hey, if you got involved in the RTF program, what would that look like? And Matthew was like, I think it would be a class where we study the movies that I make, you know, and I would provide access to those films. And then nothing happened, and I guess he was like in the Louisiana swamps shooting Free State of Jones in 2015 and called the department and said, hey, I'm shooting here with Gary Ross in the middle of the swamps making a Civil War movie. Send the students. And they were like, what? What do we do? So they called me, and I'd kind of been known as kind of developing innovative new classes and things. So they said, hey, can you talk to Matthew and kind of figure out what this could be for a fall class? I thought about it for about a millisecond and said yes. And then got on the phone with him, and he basically just told me his vision for what the class could be, and I just wrote it all down. I just took notes. And then I figured out a way to, give assignments and grade students and all that stuff, kind of turned it into a curriculum, and we've been going over 10 years now. So that's how it started.
Incredible. Has it been incredibly beneficial to you? How much have you learned from him and vice versa?
Oh my gosh.
Like that relationship of an actor and a director.
I always tell my students I'm the luckiest person of it all, because I get to take the class every semester. Yeah. and we're always working with different filmmakers and different directors and different producers that he's worked with. So the conversation's always different. The types of projects we're talking about is different. We recently added a commercials class that actually studies the commercial work that Matthew makes. And so, I get a ton out of it. And Matthew himself is very much a student of the craft. So sometimes I've seen Matthew when he has a director, and I remember when Gary Ross came to class, he was the first director to come to class. Gary was talking about his craft, and Matthew was taking notes along with the students.
Nice.
So the idea that we stay students of our craft forever, what we can learn is infinite.
Yeah.
I learn new things every day about filmmaking. Yeah. It's that complex. It's that deep. So what a gift to have a career where you just never stop learning.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. I never get tired of talking about it.
Yeah, there's always more to learn, or someone to learn from, or people that have been in your shoes that can help. And I think that's one thing that our industry needs more of, is that support of each other at times when it feels so competitive, but really we can learn so much and be so supportive.
Well, and I will say, Austin as a film community,
Austin's incredible.
It's a very nurturing place to be a filmmaker,
Yeah.
a young filmmaker. And I chose to stay here because I'm kind of a small town guy. I come from Wisconsin, and I'm like, it's smaller. It's a little bit more, it's less dog eat dog. You go to LA or something, it might feel, LA's fine. I have a lot of friends there. But it sometimes can feel like a zero-sum game and competitive. And here I feel like filmmakers are a little more likely to support each other and pass along contacts, along, I'm always answering questions. Good, sound mixer, and sure, here you go. And, are there some interns? Here you go,
Yeah.
So I kind of like that. about Austin.
Yeah, me too. I came from Brooklyn, New York, so you
Oh.
can
Yeah, me too.
imagine, like, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Such a different world.
A little tougher.
Being an actor, it was just, and then back when I was in New York, it wasn't the self-tape auditions, is you were in the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you were waiting, and there was
Yeah.
50 other people, or
Terrible.
sometimes less, that looked just like
yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And it was, no one wanted to talk to each other, and it was so tough. And here, it's so different. I have friends who refer me to different roles, or they're like, hey, I'm auditioning for this. Do you want to audition? Hey, I threw your name in the hat for this.
Yeah.
And just that camaraderie and love and support that only lifts everyone up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Incredible.
Yeah, on my case, it was more because I started producing over there, and then I jumped to directing and, getting involved into managing teams and stuff. But yeah, everything was transactional. It was just for the day, and it was you didn't have too much freedom to kind of provide or suggest ideas. It was just kind of just get it done and move on to the next day or the next thing. So coming to Austin, and I tried to. And it helped me because I brought the things that I didn't want to apply here.
Yeah.
Right. So it was like a good school and good base for me to do things differently. The things that I didn't like over there, I had them really clear. So that was one of the things that, when I started the company, I want to invite people to come in. I want to talk with people. I want to meet people and, do things. And, and it was the city kind of embraced me and with that mindset, and everyone was like, what are you doing? Let's do something. You know what I mean? It was, it's great.
There's some secret sauce in that, in terms of starting your own company or making your own films, but having a really nice tone on set and having sort of a spirit of invitation and giving. I noticed I had students. I shot last week a commercial, and I had my students on set, and they came on set before we even had class. So the first day of class was on set. And the crew, the clients, everybody, there's kind of this magic to having young people on set who are being invited into the process to learn. It's kind of the tone kind of changes. It kind of becomes a little bit more inviting and kind and nurturing. And there's something about, like, how do you create a set that feels like low stakes, feels relaxed, and feels fun? That's part of it. Just that attitude of, hey, come learn, be a part of this. We want to give. It's not transactional. We want to give.
Yeah,
I love it. That's what we did last week. We were filming. We were filming a short in a spec.
Yeah. We
were in a road trip, and we had Trev and Georgia with us, and they had never worked with me before, or Matt. And they just soaked everything up, and the energy and the magic of just learning, and their excitement re-excited me and reignited. This is why I started. This is why I love it.
Yeah.
And just the support, and it was incredible. And I'm going to say what you guys told me, but you were like, Georgia, I texted her saying, thank you so much. Wonderful to work with you. She goes, I learned so much from you. And that feeling of, gosh, the joy being brought back in, that I think students should be on every set just to see their excitement. Because I think sometimes we lose the excitement of why we do what we do.
Yeah.
And you have these kids that have, students that have, they're kids, never been on that set before, and they are wowed by it all.
Yeah. You have to be careful not to become cynical. And we all know people in the business who are cynical because it's hard, and it can be a grind, and it can be stressful. But we are very privileged to do this, to get paid to tell stories, or to pursue getting paid to tell stories, which a lot of us are. It's really wonderful. It's fun work, and we should try to remind ourselves that we really are living the dream, even though maybe we're not quite to where we want to be yet, but we're always going to be striving.
But I think that's part of the journey. It's like we always want to kind of be on the next level, but I mean, I think what I'm enjoying right now, and the phase where I'm at right now, is just kind of pushing myself to just go a little farther. You know what I mean? Like, finish that script, like finish that short film, like finish editing this thing, or because it's like you said, it's always learnings, and whatever you do, regardless that what it is related to filmmaking, you're always gonna learn something.
Yeah, absolutely.
What did you learn, or what do you wish that you learned? Let me restart this. I have so many questions. Hold, please.
They're great questions.
You have built credibility. You've built 2 West Productions, your company. You have you have this resilience. What did you learn that you wished you'd learned sooner about that? About just resilience, I think, because I think that's one of the hardest things is rejection in this industry, because that is constant. I mean, it's constant. No, thank you. No. Or I mean, at least for actors, a lot of the time, 99.9% of the time, we never hear back.
I wish someone told me early on what Matthew McConaughey tells our students is that get in on the joke, and the joke is it ain't personal. It's just business. Yeah. And particularly as an actor, I don't know how y'all do it. That's so hard. The rejection, the going up for a role. I mean, that's tough. But you know, people who write a really personal script and it gets rejected, or they make a really personal film and it gets rejected, or it's maligned, I will tell them, you didn't make a bad film. There are no bad films, because some film that you think is terrible is someone else's favorite movie ever. Yeah. There are no bad movies. There's no bad art. You know, I don't like film criticism, and I don't like the idea of even being a critic. I was talking to a filmmaker friend of mine the other day, is I don't like criticizing films because I know how hard they are to make, and how magical and almost impossible it is to make even finish a film, much less make sure it's great. So it's very difficult. So I wish somebody told me, hey, just make the next thing. And don't worry if people reject it or don't like it. Someone out there is going to like it. You know, and I also want to tell people a lesson I learned was, you know, sometimes we're our biggest critic. That film I mentioned that had the little fart joke in it, I thought it was bad. I was like, you know, maybe this just sucks, and I'm not going to send it to festivals, and I'm a little, you know, maybe it is juvenile, you know. And a friend of mine said, no, that's a great film. You got to enter it in film festivals. Well, it got into Slam Dance, which is statistically harder to get into than Sundance. It went around the world. It was the first film I ever got paid for. It got actual distribution. It was in like 200 film festivals. And it was this huge kind of international sensation. It was like it played on Showtime. Here was this, I literally almost held myself back because I was self-critical. That is so dangerous. So it's dangerous to listen to other people, but it's also dangerous to listen to your inner critic. You got to turn that off. And I don't, you know, I think the hack for it is just go back to saying, hey, this is just all playing. You know, I'm just going to go tell another story. I'm just a kid playing in a sandbox. And if it doesn't work out, I'm going to do another one, and I'm going to do another one. That's why Matthew says, be less impressed with yourself. Go make that next thing. Don't be so precious about it. Just go make that next thing and fail more. Matthew says, go fail more, because, you know, we have to have a growth mindset. We have to learn that the more we fail, the more we learn, and we can't be afraid of failure, because if we're afraid of failure, we're not going to try, or we're going to be careful about the next film we make, or we're going to take 2 years to make that next film rather than 2 months, you know, because you're too precious about it and fearing failure and whatnot. So, I mean, that's kind of the stuff I wish somebody told me. You know, I think I would have benefited, and I probably would have felt a lot less anxiety as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. You never know how the marketplace is going to respond to what you make. I mean, a Mission Impossible movie can barely make money. How can that be? It has Tom Cruise in it. Yeah. It costs a lot, yeah, but you'd think it would just make all this money and more than make up for what it costs. Well, it barely does. Star Wars movies fail. Marvel movies fail. Big blockbuster movies with huge stars fail. The marketplace just goes, nope, never mind. No thanks. There's nothing you can do to control it. The old adage in Hollywood, no one knows anything, that is totally true. But we have to apply it to ourselves as young filmmakers, and we can't get bummed out when whatever we make doesn't land, or your script doesn't get optioned or produced, or your film doesn't get into very many film festivals. That's okay. You never know what's going to... I thought I made a stinker, and it ended up being, up to that point, my most successful work. Yeah. You know? So, yeah, you never know.
I just saw a video of the actor from Avatar, the main character. I can't remember his name, but he was telling the story about how he got cast. You know the story.
I've seen that. Yes, I have. Yep.
So it's very like you can never be as prepared. Like, you worry too much probably that you don't know what the audition is for, but you kind of overwhelm yourself thinking like what this could be. Or I'm gonna do this or I'm gonna do that. But he was like, this is just another waste of time for me, and I'm just gonna give my lines, and boom, suddenly James Cameron called him.
You never feel ready. You never feel ready. You just gotta take that opportunity before the door closes, because sometimes when you wait too long, oh wait, I want to do another polish on that script. Oh, the door closed. That person's not willing to read it anymore, or whatever. You got to just go, and you never have enough time to make a movie or make a commercial. You always want another day. You always want another week, but you don't have it. You just got to go, and that's part of the beauty of this, is that you have to get used to trusting your instinct and moving quickly. And it's scary when there's a lot of money on the line and stuff. But when you get to that point where you can kind of move quickly in spite of the stakes and trust your instincts, you know, gut instinct actually is real. You have to trust your intuition.
All about that. Yes. Physiology and how your gut produces more serotonin than your brain. And fun fact, if you guys didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So
but
tell me more about that.
So for real. After
What's
this is done
mean?
Recording, I will tell you everything.
Amazing.
But people don't realize that they need to trust their body and the signs they're given.
You know, I always thought, here's another thing that I wish somebody told me. When I was young, I always thought, if I didn't agonize over this shot list, if I didn't agonize over the storyboards and the performances and what I was going to plan to do, then I wasn't doing it right. I didn't do enough. I needed to punish myself. I needed to feel the pain. And it's like, no. Sometimes you just sit down, you read the script, you punch out a shot list, you draw some pictures, you go with your first instinct, and that's right. Because what I started to discover is I would put myself through the paces. I would do 5 versions of the shot list and the boards, agonize and beat myself up, and then go back to the first thing I wrote down. And I'm like, well, the first thing is the best. I overthought it.
That's what I do with auditions. Is 9 times out of 10, I use the first take.
Yes.
That I did.
Yes. And so you don't have to do this masochistic thing where it's like, oh my gosh, if I didn't really, look, that doesn't mean you don't prepare. That doesn't mean you don't try hard. But you can work smarter and not harder. And by smarter, I mean, hey, sometimes go trust your gut, trust your intuition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question about IP projects, because I have a few now. How do you approach like protecting that thing that you just created and probably lose it on the way?
So the smart people I talk to don't worry too much about that. So I would say don't worry about it too much. I think it's much more important to get your script out there and read and get feedback on it than kind of hesitate to get feedback on it, because as you know, feedback is so precious. It's so funny. Like in film school, I feel like a lot of my film students get tired of getting their scripts critiqued and talked about, and they get tired of the feedback. I'm like, you're going to like really miss being in school when you got free feedback on your work, when people were forced to read it and give you feedback.
Yeah.
Feedback is great.
Yeah.
You know, there is such thing as good criticism, as good critique, and you need to like embrace that and listen to it and not sort of fight against it. You don't want to start, when someone starts giving you their verbal feedback, don't stop them and tell them why you wrote it that way. You got to just let it wash over you and write it down. It's very precious. So I think it's better to not worry about that. It is important to be careful about who you attach to a project, to produce or to direct or to co-produce or whatever. That is important.
Like for example, I've been having this dilemma of, I already have this script finished. What is the next step for it? Yeah. So I have other filmmaker friends that want, they suggest just go through everyone's route, networking, finding people that might be interested, that might push the project. It might take a couple of years, but it's kind of the safe route, kind of inviting people to the project that way. The other way, it's going through the agency route, which it's where you actually have to pay some money for, like, let's say, EP services. Like these these agencies kind of grab your script, create like a detailed pitch deck with budgets and a schedule and all this stuff, and then start pitching it to their network and whatnot. So I've been having this kind of wall in because I ask people, like, what would you do? Like, let's say you have this, what would you do? Like, what will be your approach? And probably I will ask the same question to you.
Well, you're talking to someone who has not made a narrative feature, so I don't have a magic way of doing it. My approach has always been more human and relational, and talking to producers I know and seeing if, because I'm a director, I own my own production company and I produce my commercials and stuff. But when it comes to a feature, it's hard to be the sole producer and direct it. So I would have to collaborate with a producer. So the first order of business is to find a producer who's experienced and who has made films and knows how to get them financed, which is obviously the hardest part.
Yeah.
Finding the money.
Yeah.
So I would just explore people in your network or people adjacent to your network who fall into that category of producers who have made stuff, who like the genre in which you're working, and I would approach them. I like that more human, like, hey, people like somebody you met at that party you forced yourself to go to, and you didn't want to go because you were anxious. There's so many times where I met some producer I'd like to work with because I went to that party, and this is someone who I wouldn't cross paths with otherwise, unless I went to that networking event or whatever.
Yeah.
So would be my recommendation. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
So appreciative. I could talk to you for hours. It's been such a pleasure to have you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. I know you're busy, so we're very appreciative.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
And to our listeners, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like and follow on Spotify and iTunes so you don't miss out on our future episodes.
STLL Studios is a full-service production agency that partners with people, brands, and agencies to bring their unique stories to life for TV, socials, or ads. Contact us at hello@stillstudios.com.
IDTV Flix.